All right, guys, I want to start out this video by asking you a question. Have you ever been playing in a match where everything feels like it's going your way? You feel like you're going to win this match. You're playing great. You've got the momentum, which is what we're talking about. You're just playing out of your mind, right? You've got, the flow state going. You're in the zone. Maybe you're up a break. Maybe you're feeling confident. And then suddenly something changes inside of the match. Maybe you miss a couple of balls. Maybe you hit a few unforced errors. Maybe you double fault. Maybe your opponent, they win a really long deuce point where they finally break back on you. It can be a crusher, and before you know it, the momentum completely flips in the match, and now you feel tight. You feel all of the pressure, and your opponent, they look confident, all right? They look unshakable. Now that they have a little bit of the momentum there, they feel like they can play better, and they really can come back. And if this has ever happened to you, I want you to know that you are not alone, all right? If you play tennis at any level, and if you play for long enough, this will happen to you. And the momentum, it can feel overwhelming, like you can't control it at all. And so today, that's what I want to talk about, is momentum swings in tennis, especially in these high-level matches. And even more importantly, how you can actually control the momentum with your mental skills instead of feeling like, the momentum swings, they just happen to you and there's nothing you can do about it. It's insurmountable, because the truth is, momentum isn't luck. Momentum, it's a mental skill. You can actually learn how to harness this mental skill and give yourself just another advantage whenever you're playing these high-level matches. And once you understand that, you can actually start influencing the momentum. So let's actually get into, this video. I want to start by defining what momentum actually is. It's always useful to define what we mean, because sometimes we think we know what we mean, but when we start thinking about it, it actually gets hard to define. And so most players think momentum is this sort of mysterious force in tennis matches, right? Like it's an energy or just some magic that shows up whenever, something goes right or wrong in a match. But momentum is actually very simple, all right? It's not complicated. Momentum is simply a shift in confidence, emotional energy, and decision-making between players, all right? It's when one player starts feeling more confident, and so they play freer, right? They swing freer, they make clearer decisions, they move better on the court, and they don't feel like there's any pressure on them. And when the other player feels pressure, they tighten up. Maybe they hesitate. Maybe they make bad, low percentage decisions, and they start thinking instead of reacting and playing with, the muscle memory that they've trained for. And so momentum is not just about who wins points. It's actually about how the players feel, right? Which is a mental thing. And while those points are happening, if your mental game, if your mental training is weak, it's going to be a lot harder for you to control these big momentum swings. And that's why the mental side matters so much. And it's a big part of winning and losing in tennis, right? And so here's the biggest mistake that I see players making whenever the momentum shifts. My students have made these mistakes. I've made these mistakes, all right? What happens is we tend to panic. And we tend to feel the momentum slipping away. And we start thinking to ourselves, man, I'm losing control of this match. I have to do something big. I need to do something crazy to try and get back in the middle of this match, to take the momentum back. I can't let this keep happening. And so what happens is players will often start rushing. They start going for too much. They start trying to hit winners even when they don't really have an opportunity to hit it. They start abandoning their patterns, their point progressions, and they actually help the momentum swing even more. And so here's the truth. Momentum swings in tennis matches, they're normal. And they're going to happen, regardless of how much you want to get rid of them. Momentum swings are going to happen. Even pros lose momentum during matches. But I want us to shift our mindset, all right? Because if we shift our mindset, we'll start acting with better mental habits. And so I want us to shift our mindset from trying to stop momentum from happening to start turning these momentum swings into something that we can control instead of something that causes us to collapse. Because the goal isn't to stop the momentum from shifting at all. The goal is to stop it from turning into collapse. prevent ourselves from becoming a dying star that just implodes once something goes wrong. And so here's something really important. Momentum, it doesn't change because of 1 point. I really want to emphasize that. Individual points are not going to change the momentum of the match. Momentum changes because of your response to those points. Two players can both lose a tough rally back to back. And while one player gets frustrated and tight, the other player might reset and move on. Who do you think is going to keep the momentum for longer? The one who freaks out or the one who moves on, who has, a stronger mental game? And so the player who recovers faster is the player who has the stronger mental game, because momentum is about recovery speed. And being able to mentally recover from setbacks in the middle of the match is going to increase the speed at which you can get back into the match and retake the momentum. All right. And so that's kind of the breakdown of momentum and how momentum shifts and how it happens. But now let's actually get practical. All right. Those 3 things that you want to do in order to start controlling the momentum. And so here's that first strategy is I want you to slow the match down. All right. I want you to slow the match down when you start feeling the momentum shift away from you and against you. Because when the momentum starts shifting against you, your brain is going to speed up. All right, it's going to start thinking because you're going to get anxious. You start rushing between points. You want to get to the next point as quickly as possible to try and change the outcome. And that's exactly what you don't want to do. And so instead, what I want you to do is I want you to be intentional, and I want you to slow everything down. I want you to walk slower to the line. I want you to take a deep breath. Just go in for 3 seconds and out for 6 seconds. It's that simple. And that's going to give you back control over your body, over your physiology. So I want you to use your full routine in between points. And this is going to send a signal to your brain. Whenever you slow down, force them to halt their own momentum, that you're still in control. And it breaks the emotional speed that momentum tends to create, because we don't want our emotions to snowball so that they get so big that they end up ruining a tennis match for us. We want to be able to control the momentum. We want to slow our opponent down, don't let them have any sort of advantage, and we want to give ourselves a chance to reset. And that has to take time. It takes time. And so take that full 20 seconds in between points, whether you're returning or serving, and force yourself to slow down so that you can actually evaluate what's going on. And so that's the first strategy, but here's the second one. I want you to return to your patterns, all right? Patterns matter. Rituals and routines matter, because when players feel the momentum slipping away, they often abandon what was working in the match itself. They start trying new shots because clearly something isn't working. They start going for winners too early. A lot of times my students, they'll get impatient. And so instead of doing all those things, rushing, getting impatient, trying to hit winners, I want you to ask yourself, what has been working in this match? What was working earlier in the match? And what I want you to do is I want you to go back to your highest percentage pattern. And maybe what it is just heavy cross-court forehands, keeping the ball cross-court no matter what, and that keeps you in points. Maybe it's making sure you serve to your opponent's backhand. Maybe it's forcing your opponent to play longer rallies, and that's how you've been winning points. Momentum shifts, they often stop whenever you return to the simple, to the repeatable, right? Those patterns that you have that are going to give you confidence and familiarity that really lend themselves to your muscle memory. And so always fall back on the patterns that you are comfortable with, on the patterns that are going to keep you in these points, and don't try and become a completely new player in the middle of these matches just because the momentum begins to shift. You need to stick with what you're good at. All right. And that's going to help you prevent the momentum from shifting to your opponent, because even if they keep winning points, if you're forcing them to play for longer, if you're forcing them to play more balls, they're not going to feel like they're dominating the match. They're going to feel like they're having to fight for it. And that's going to prevent them from getting this huge momentum swing where they get so much momentum that they just get a bunch of easy points in a row and a bunch of easy games quickly. All right. And so fall back on those patterns. All right. Here's the last strategy I want you to really focus on when it comes to the momentum of a match. And this one is huge. Momentum is emotional. It's really predominantly emotional. And what's happening in the middle of your match is your opponent is watching you. They're looking for signs. They're looking for frustration and panic and negative body language. And so your job is very simple. You need to stay neutral, all right? You don't need to show that you are frustrated at all, all right? And even if you don't feel great on the inside, all right, you need to act steady. You need to have relaxed shoulders in between points. You need to have calm breathing in between points, confident posture. You shouldn't be, berating yourself out loud and telling yourself how bad you are in front of your opponent, because if your opponent sees that you have mentally defeated yourself, it's just that much easier for them to get a huge momentum swing and for the momentum to snowball into something that is really hard to overcome in the middle of your match. And so you don't actually have to feel confident. This is something I emphasize to my students. You don't actually have to feel confident to portray yourself as confident. You can act opposite from how you feel. All you have to do is stop feeding your opponent emotional energy, because that's what's going to keep them in the match. That's what's going to build up the momentum for them. And sometimes momentum shifts back to you simply because you stop giving it away to your opponent. And having these emotional reactions and outbursts when you're on the court, that is going to give the momentum over to your opponent very easily. All right. And so those are the three tools, but here's something else that's very powerful. This is a sort of bonus, all right? You don't need to win 5 points in a row. You don't need to win 3 games in a row in order to change the momentum of the match. Oftentimes, the momentum of a match shifts with one solid point played with intention, even if you don't win the point. And that's what I emphasize to a lot of my students. You don't necessarily need to win these points. You always want to, of course, that helps, but you don't need to win the points in order to shift the momentum, because it's a mental skill. It's an emotional skill. Maybe you just need one long rally where you stay calm and force them to play 30, 40, 50 shots. Maybe you just need one smart pattern or point progression to get you a quick point. Maybe you just need one disciplined point where you do everything that you know you're supposed to and you play really well, and maybe they just outplayed you, but you're reminding yourself, you're reminding your brain, I'm still here. I haven't been beaten yet. All right? I'm not done yet. I know that I can stay in this match and I can still win. And momentum, it starts with your own beliefs, right? One small belief that carries over into your match play so that you can actually continue to win these points. And so have that belief in your mind. Don't tell yourself that you're out of this match just because the momentum has shifted, because the momentum can shift back to you just as quickly, all right? And great players, they don't expect momentum to stay on their side. And this is kind of what I want to close with, and then we'll recap, is great players don't expect the momentum to constantly stay on their side, because in a sport as complicated as tennis, as mentally intensive as tennis, the momentum is going to shift back and forth between players throughout the entire match. What great players do expect, though, what elite players expect, is they expect swings in matches, swings in momentum, and so they plan for them, and they understand that matches are emotional roller coasters. They have ups and downs. Momentum, it can come and it can go, and the calmer player usually wins the match in the long run. And so mental training, it's not about avoiding momentum swings altogether. It's about staying stable while they're happening, because they're unavoidable, all right? And so let's kind of wrap up here and just recap everything that we talked about here when it comes to momentum swings and matches. First thing, momentum isn't magic, all right? It's a skill that can be learned, and it's something that can be broken down and understood, all right? It's really a shift in confidence and decision-making. And you can control it by slowing down the match, by returning to your patterns and winning the emotional battle happening in the middle of the match. If you do these 3 things, you will stop feeling like the momentum of the match is controlling you, all right? So focus on getting these 3 things down. Thank you for watching this video. All right. If this video helped you, make sure to subscribe. I'm going to keep breaking down the mental side of tennis in these longer form videos. If you want to see the shorter form stuff, go to that Instagram right there, Coach Gabe May. All right. And then I also have a school community. And so if you want just a free meeting, all right, with me, a free Zoom call where we can break down what's going on in the mental game with you and how you can start mastering it and how you can build a system that actually helps you develop your mental game and practice the mental game, go ahead and look in the description below, because I'm going to put a link to my calendar planning where you can actually schedule a free Zoom call with me so that we can break down what's going on in your game and show you how you can change your win percentage and start winning more matches with the mind advantage, all right? Because the mind advantage is what's going to train you to master the mental side of tennis, all right? Drop down some comments below about what you think about momentum swings, and I'll see y'all in the next one.